Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. This is part 2 of a special 2-part mini-series that we're doing right now on building, renovating, and relocating. If you haven't listened to part 1, comparing whether or not you are looking to build or renovate and the decision-making matrix that comes along with that, go back and listen to the previous episode. Listen to part 1. It's going to make a lot more sense when it comes into part 2. But here we are, part 2, talking about the third option that we have, which is relocating. Because often, we ask ourselves, should we build? Should we renovate? And that was what we unpacked in part 1. And hopefully you've come away with more clarity about the difference between making your current home work and starting fresh on the same property. But there is a third option that's just as important. That's the one people often dance around. And that is what we are talking about today. Talking about relocating. That's not renovating. That's not building. That's packing up and selling. Because sometimes that is the best option for you. Sometimes the smartest move is to move. Now, I know what you're thinking. Brandon, I live in Vancouver. Have you seen these prices? Moving seems like a punishment, not a plan. And you're not wrong. The market here, it can be pretty brutal, but that's exactly why it's worth understanding when relocation actually makes sense. And when it's just a knee-jerk reaction to frustration, right? Because the truth is, whether you renovate, rebuild, or relocate, all three paths do have trade-offs. Your job as a homeowner is to make the informed trade-off, not the emotional one. Most people start thinking about moving because they hit a breaking point, right? The layout's cramped, the traffic's awful trying to get to work. Kids are bigger, the walls are getting tighter, the house is, maybe just tired. And the thought creeps in. What if we just sold this place and started fresh somewhere else? And it's tempting. A new home, maybe closer to work, maybe better schools, more space, fewer headaches. But here's the trap. People tend to compare the worst version of their current home to the best version of a potential new one. Compare the worst version, let me say that again, the worst version of their current home to the best version of a potential one. Right? You're comparing your outdated kitchen to a show home with a perfect staging budget, and you're comparing your current commute in rush hour to the idea of an easier one. And when emotions drive the conversation, logic typically takes a backseat. Here we tell our clients all the time, don't move because you're frustrated, move because you're strategic. And there's a big difference. There are times when relocating is a smart move, and it usually comes down to one of three things. Number one, your lifestyle has changed and your home can't keep up. So maybe you've outgrown your house, or maybe it's outgrown you, and your kids are gone and you're maintaining a 4-bedroom home you don't need. Maybe your job shifted and that 45 commute each way is just eating into your sanity. And maybe your life's changed, but your house hasn't. Relocation might be the reset button you actually need. But again, it should be a strategic reset, not an emotional escape. Number two, the math just doesn't make sense anymore, right? Sometimes, even if you love your home, the economics just don't work. Maybe the lot value is peaked, and rebuilding won't give you the return on investment that you're looking for. And maybe a renovation would cost nearly as much as moving, but without solving your real problem. Now, if you can sell, reposition your equity, and buy something that better fits your long-term lifestyle and financial goals, then that's a win. This is especially true if you're moving within the lower mainland, say like selling in Vancouver and buying in a growing area like Langley or Delta or Squamish, right? It's not downgrading, it's restructuring your assets for your life stage. And number three, you want to change not just your house, but your environment, right? Some people underestimate how much the neighborhood itself affects quality of life. You can build a perfect home, but if the location doesn't fit your lifestyle anymore, then the piece just won't last. And maybe the area is too busy now. Maybe you want more land, maybe you want less maintenance, more walkability, or just a new community. If your environment no longer aligns with who you are today, then no amount of renovation can fix that. Now, before you start browsing listings, let's talk about the hidden costs of relocation, because this is where people often get blindsided. And I'm not a realtor here, so go and talk to your professional realtor. But when you move, it's not about selling and buying. It's realtor commissions, property transfer tax, legal fees, moving costs, new furniture, renovations that may come up anyways because you want to do some sort of renovation, landscaping, whatever it is. And that's before you even unpack the boxes. We've had clients come to us and, saying, we thought moving would be simpler, but by the time we added everything up, it was another multi-six-figure decision. So don't just look at the listing price of your next home. Look at the real cost of transition. Now, here's the thing when you're trying to separate emotion from strategy. Making this decision is not about what's easiest today. It's about what sets you up for the next 10, 20, even 30 years. And that requires a mindset shift from emotion to strategy. So let's unpack that for a second. First thing I want you to consider is start with how you want to live, not what you want to build. This is where most people get it backwards. They start with the house, not the life. They say they want a bigger kitchen instead of we want a space that brings our family together. Or we want a new house instead of we want to spend less time maintaining and more time enjoying. When you start with your lifestyle goals, the right housing choice becomes much clearer. So before you even talk to a builder or realtor, ask yourself, what does the next chapter of our life look like? And how should our home support that? Second thing is get a true reality check on value. One of the best exercises you can do is have a professional feasibility study done. So we help our clients regularly compare three options side by side. We look at cost to renovate, cost to build, cost, we're looking at gains and loss of selling and relocating. And when you see all three on paper, real numbers, not guesses, the path forward usually becomes obvious. And sometimes the answer surprises people. We've had clients convinced they needed to move only to find out a strategic renovation could deliver everything that they wanted at half the cost. Right? It didn't take much, but we had to uncover things a little bit deeper and do that digging that your contractor should. Now, we've had others who thought a renovation would be simple until they realized that a new build was actually the more sustainable long-term investment. And that's the power of data and perspective. Third thing I want you to consider is build for your 10-year self, not your 10-month emotions. And this is a big one. All right, so many homeowners make housing decisions based on how they feel right now. They're frustrated, cramped, stressed, and they want relief. But you have to zoom out. Right? Ask yourself, where do we see ourselves in 10 years? Will our needs grow? Will they shrink? Will they change entirely? Are the kids going to move out of the house? Are they going to go off to college? You don't know every single scenario that can come up, but you want to try and span out 5 years, 10 years. Is this a forever home, right? Or is it a strategic stop along the way? Because the best housing decisions isn't the one that feels best today. It's the one that will make sense a decade from now. And third thing I want you to consider is build for your 10-year self, not your 10-month emotions. And this is a big one. So many homeowners, they make housing decisions based on how they feel right now. They're frustrated, they're cramped, they're stressed, and they want relief. Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you, or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. They feel the relief. We have to zoom out and ask yourself, where do we see ourselves in 10 years? Will our needs grow? Are they going to be different? Are they going to shrink? Are they going to change entirely? Are the kids going to move out? Right? I don't know the answer, but you should have a relatively good direction as to what that looks like. Maybe your kids are going off to college. Maybe this doesn't make sense. Maybe renovating or building is going to make sense for the next 2 years, but is that going to make sense in 10 years? Right? Is this a forever home, or is it a strategic stop along the way? Because the best housing decision isn't the one that feels best today. It's the one that will make sense a decade from now. So let's talk about the framework and how to decide with confidence the direction that we want to go in. Right? So let's bring this home, literally and figuratively. Here's the same framework that we use when we're helping families decide whether to renovate, build, or relocate. It's simple but powerful. Step 1, define the root problem. What are you actually trying to solve? Is your core issue the layout? Well, renovations, it may solve it. Is function and efficiency key thing that you're looking for? Well, a rebuild could be a better option. And if it's location or lifestyle, relocation might be the play. Right? Write that down. Most people skip that step and they wonder why they're stuck later. Second thing I want you to do is evaluate the potential of your current property. So ask, what is the ceiling here? How big can I build under current zoning? Can it be upzoned? Can we build multiplex? Does that make sense for me? Because chances are you have some hidden value in your property that you didn't even know about. What is the land value versus the house value? Could a rebuild unlock more usable space or equity in your home? In the Vancouver and Lower Mainland markets, your lot often drives 70-80% of your property value, right? It means that sometimes the dirt is worth more than the structure sitting on it. I know my grandfather's house, I think it was, is in Vancouver, and was looking at the property tax assessment, the land. If you're familiar with any property in Vancouver, the house itself was only worth $70,000, but the land exponentially more expensive. It was insane. But the third thing you need to do is get real numbers early. Before you fall in love with an idea, get a ballpark budget. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to be honest. Renovations can range widely depending on the scope and the surprises that might come up. New builds vary with design and finishing levels, so you need to get clear on what that is. Relocating, it certainly comes with fees, taxes, and market volatility, right? If you are buying a new home, how much are you going to be able to get for your current home? Are you going to be able to sell that? Are you going to be able to buy this home at a reasonable price, subject free? Do you need to put subject to sale of your home on it? All of these things come up, and it causes complexity. And when you compare all three with real costs, not wishful thinking, clarity shows up pretty quickly. Step 4 is factor in your life logistics. And this part often too does get overlooked. Renovating means living through construction, potentially, right? It can get kind of ugly. And if you're not ready for it, maybe a renovation isn't for you. If you have young kids and you need a big renovation, it just could be overwhelming. Maybe that doesn't make sense. But rebuilding means, finding temporary housing, most definitely. So that can add another $70,000 onto your cost for the year, because you're going to be out of your home for 12 months or 18 months, but it could be $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 depending on where you live and what you are going to be paying for rent. That needs to be taken into consideration, not only for your bottom line, but also for financing. And relocating means changing communities, schools, and often routines. And there's no right or wrong, but it is trade-offs. But acknowledging them up front prevents resentment later. Step 5, play the long game. The right decision is the one that gives you peace and performance. Will this move or build position you better financially in 10 years? Will it improve your daily life enough to justify the investment? Will it hold value in a shifting market? When you answer yes to those, you've clearly found your path. The real takeaway here is look, I know this process can feel overwhelming. Indecision costs more than any of these options ever will. When you sit on the fence, you lose time, opportunity, and peace of mind. And meanwhile, your home, your biggest asset, isn't serving you. Our goal here at New Vision Projects, and should be with any contractor, isn't to sell you on one direction or another. It's to help you make the right decision for your lifestyle and your family and your goals. One that aligns with your long-term vision. Long-term vision. Clarity is what builds confidence. And confident homeowners make smart, lasting investments. So if you're in that season of should we stay or should we go, start here. Take a deep breath, get the facts, run the numbers, talk to the professionals who will tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. Your home should be a source of pride, not pressure. And when you make decisions with clarity and strategy, it will be. So thanks for joining me on this 2-part series of Do We Build, Renovate, or Relocate? I appreciate all of the time that you've spent here with us today. If you haven't listened to episode 1 or the first part of this, go back and give that a listen. If you are considering building or renovating and you'd like more information, certainly reach out to us anytime. Shoot us a message on Instagram at New Vision Projects. Check us out on newvisionprojects.com. or any of the socials. I'm sure you can find us and track us down, but we are here to serve. We are here to make sure that you find clarity in your decisions and you're making the best financial decisions that you can for you, your family, and your future. Until next time, appreciate you, appreciate your time. Rock and roll. Cheers.